In the meeting at some company, Mulan, they are in a board meeting and one of the members, Preston, suggests that they sell their company to Elliot, which is another big competitor, or they drown in losses. Michelle Mulan, the daughter of the owner of the company and also a member, disagrees with Preston's proposition, though at the moment, she does not have the numbers to back up her decision, so her father Walter gives her a chance indirectly, because she thinks she can save the company, and the dad also reminded her that pride comes before a fall, but he believed in her. That night at her place, her daughter Dara gets back from volleyball. They have some mother-girl talk and later head to a restaurant for dinner because she had not cooked. At the restaurant, the mother's attention is distracted by this young guy called Ryan from a distant table, and she lost concentration with her daughter. Since she had a lonely and boring love life, she was a divorcee, she felt tempted, upset-minded, and decided to take Dara back home first. After dropping her home, she returned to the restaurant with hopes of seeing the guy again, and she ran into him. The guy threw his skills at her, she fell for them, and they spent some time together that night. Time reached, she had to get back home. She apologized to him for wasting his time, and he was like she didn't. He wrote his number on a piece of paper and gave it to her as she left. When she reached at her home, she threw the paper in the trash can and went to sleep. The next morning, as she was getting ready to go to work, she saw the paper in the can and she removed it from there. She deeply thought about calling the guy because, like I told you, her love life was boring. She instead decided to keep it and went to work. They still had a meeting and it was still about the same issue. She proposed to them that instead of selling their company to Elliot, a merger was better, and she had a good proposal that would let the two companies emerge. After the meeting, her dad reminded her that their company had lost over $100 million over the last 2 years, and she promised him that they were going to make the money back. Walter was like the entire board was proposing to sell, and Michelle was the only one opposing. Her point was that Elliot's real estate investment strategies were flawed, and if they merged, it could help both companies. He gave her a last chance to make things right. At her home that night, she was bored, stressed, and decided to call the number. A doorbell then rang. It was George, who had bought dinner to have with her. He apologized for coming to her place without notice, but it was because she was too busy of late, and she let him in. After that unromantic dinner, George gave her an engagement ring, which she rejected, and she opened up to him that whatever he thought was going on between them was not going to work at the moment because things were tough at her company, and she had a million things on her mind besides what George wanted. He was like, he will be patient, and he wanted to be there for her. Michelle told him that she did not feel the same towards him. She did not have the spark for him, a thing that can make her love him, and she apologized for breaking his heart. George did not give up, and as he was leaving, he was like, he thinks she just needs more time, as she was going through a lot, and left. At work, because of the stress, she needed to clear her mind, and so she decided to give Ryan a call. As she was doing so, her secretary told her that he had Jesse Aaron on the line, senior portfolio manager from Elliot. She canceled the Ryan call, though it had gone through, and told him to send Jesse's call through. She told Jesse that as she was going through their company acquisition, and with the cash flow of Elliot and with their expertise, they could both make their margins grow. They made an arrangement to meet face to face at 2 o'clock. A few minutes later, Ryan called her, asked if she finally changed her mind and if it was bad timing. She was like no, and she went to join him for lunch. When they met, she was like she could only stay for a few minutes as she had a meeting at 2 o'clock, which was a 30 minutes drive away. Ryan told her to relax. The two went into a deep conversation, trying to know one another, until she got a message from her secretary that she had to reply to. The secretary then decided to call her, but instead, she came up with an excuse and told him to tell Jesse that there was an emergency. After the call, she was regretting that what she had done was really stupid and that maybe she should call him back, but Ryan stopped her. That evening, she took him to her office because he wanted to see where she worked and showed him around. It was at this moment that Ryan used his magic tricks on her, which she fell for because of her boring love life. She could not escape him. From there, he took her in town to places she had never been to before, and everything she was seeing was a new experience to her. She said to him that what she saw was intense. Ryan wanted her to take him to her place. She refused because of her daughter Dara back home, and so he took her to his. When her dad called to ask her about the meeting, she was like she did not make it because her phone died and she got lost. She was stranded, she said. Walter was really pissed off that she blew off an investor she had to meet that day to hang out with Ryan. The next day, George went knocking at her door with flowers. She asked what he was doing there and that it was not okay to go to her place unannounced. He was like he thought they had something and told him the truth that she was seeing some else. She told him to leave and closed the door on him. For the next days, Ryan and Michelle Moulin were tight. They could not leave each other's sight and every moment was fun for them, and they ran into Jesse, the investor she was supposed to meet with, at a fundraising party. She apologized for the previous incident. He asked her one good reason as to why Elliot would benefit from merging with Moulin. She was like Moulin had a reputation and loyal clientele base, which are very valuable assets, and she could prove to him with hard numbers that a merger would make Elliot more money. Jesse was like he was going to give her one more chance because of her father Walter Moulin, because he was a good friend of his father. The next day at work, she had a meeting with his dad Walter. She apologized for her behavior of late, and he asked her why she was dating Ryan Black, who was a drug-dealing car thief, and why she had to bring him to the fundraising part in front of his guests. The truth is she did not know anything about the guy, and she is hearing everything for the first time from her father. Her dad was like her behavior is a reflection of their family's good name. She promised him never to let her personal life interfere with her professional life and that she was 100% dedicated to the Moulin company. He accepted her apology, told her that their entire company depended on the deal with Jesse, and she was like she was going to make it work. For the next few days, she was really focused on work, about the Elliot deal. One day she went to meet with Alana, Ryan's previous ex. And she gave Michelle some advice to be careful with Ryan because he was dangerous and he hurts people's lives. When Michelle asked why she should believe Alana, she was like, "You don't have to, I just thought someone should warn you to watch out." When she got to her home that night, she found Ryan with her daughter Dara. She fought and told him to leave her Dara alone. Dara apologized to her mother about Ryan and that she did not know that the two were seeing each other. She also apologized to her for bringing him into their lives. At work in the meeting, she threw her anger onto her dad and he gave her some days off to get back to her senses. She then got messages from Ryan about her daughter and she went to confront him about his acts. She did some things to scare him off so that he can stay away from them and also forwarded the messages to the police. She wished him good luck with the police because Dara was underage. The next day, she dressed for Jesse and went to see him at his office. To make the story short, Jesse agreed for the two companies to merge because he saw something in her, and after the papers were signed, he asked her out. If you have come this far, the film is called Bound 2015, and please consider subscribing for more recaps.